I wanted to take a second and just kind of outline a little bit of our view of how do you approach this, because I think this topic of systems of engagement or social software, we were talking about this a little bit last night. I think we're reaching an inflection point where we need to start aggressively moving from the what is it to the how do we do it, right? I would be surprised if anybody is in here who hasn't been to a conference in the last year or two, hasn't been to some kind of talk about social software, consumerization. This is a big thing that's happening, but we need to walk away from these events with an idea of, well, what can I go back and do specifically about this, right? So our strategy, just to kind of give you some background into how we see people solving these challenges, and you'll see some of this in the case studies, is really, we've taken, this is kind of a slant on the Gartner view of content management, if you will. They've been talking about these 4 worlds of ECM. They lay them out as boxes. I've kind of laid them out as a stack with content management infrastructure running across multiple different applications. And on top of that, you have transactional content systems. Again, more often tied to your systems of record. This is the example like AP automation, where I am literally trying to capture something as part of a modeled process. On the other end, we have what's now being called online channel optimization. Forrester refers to this as persuasive content management. This is really the kind of the web content management side of social. This is how do I connect with a customer or a partner or an employee and be able to present the right piece of content to them, the right persuasive piece of content to actually call them, to actually have them do something. And in the middle, social content management. This idea that, as John talked about, we're creating a whole new set of content, types of content, collaborating with each other on content. We need to have tools in place to help manage that. So we believe what's critical to this is this shared infrastructure across these things. And if we draw that in a broader context, it's about being fluent in both of these languages, both data and process as well as content. So when we draw out our strategy, we draw out this unified content platform. So we have one application, manages all the content. We have an imaging system that connects to your ERP systems and does the front-end transactions. We have a social software capability called Web Center. We actually have a dedicated session tomorrow. We'll be talking about Web Center and how does that connect to your business processes and drive social. And then web content management. We have a whole dedicated web content management offering, again, sharing that same infrastructure. But the important part is how it relates to the boxes at the top. So I've kind of laid out 3 boxes. One of them we're calling traditional content management applications. These are things all of you should be familiar with, I'm sure, for attending this show, which is web content management and records management, imaging systems, document management. These things are still important. They're important parts of our infrastructure. The middle box is your enterprise applications. And again, the opportunity here is to connect the language of content management, the language of social, to those enterprise applications. So do I understand when I look at a customer in a CRM system, what presentations are being shown to them? Do I understand, do I have a thread of activities around when's the account team been in there? What's the strategy behind what they're going to do? If I'm looking at my ERP system, or better yet, maybe my PLM system, do I have an opportunity to actually engage with my customer in an unstructured way, not structured surveys? I mean, can I actually connect with my customer, trade information, emails, Twitter streams, and drive that back into the process? One really good example here, I was at a dinner in London with one of the big telco companies, and I was actually meeting with their head of customer service. And he told me a really interesting story. He said, we found out what was happening was that our customers, when they go offline, because we provide their internet access, when they go offline, what some of the most prolific bloggers and are you a Twitterer? Is that correct? Twitterers? What they would do when they would go offline, because their service was down, they would get back online, and the first thing they would do was bash the phone company to their thousands of followers about how they were offline. So he got this idea to take 4 people from his call center off the official call center desk, and he put them on a couple of terminals over on the side that were connected to the web, and they created a Twitter feed with the company name around their customer care. So it was specifically a customer care Twitter feed. And they started engaging with people on Twitter that were experiencing these problems. And they said it was really interesting in a couple ways. One, they said within 3 weeks, they started to find that when somebody came back online and bashed them on Twitter, somebody else, not them, would say, hey, you should tweet to this handle and they will help you. which was pretty interesting from a brand standpoint. There was this idea of, they care, they're willing to help, they'll get engaged. So on one hand, it's this great success story of how they're using Twitter to engage their customers. What we talked about at the dinner was, he said, now I have this challenge, which is why he was talking to us, they're one of our customers. How do I actually make that another channel to talk to my customer, but in my CRM process? Because what I have today is a call center full of people that have tickets and processes and escalations over here, and I've got 4 people sitting on the wall over here on Twitter, right? And we don't want to reinvent our whole call escalation, our whole knowledge base, just because we're using a different vehicle to talk to our customer. And how do we tie that back into our CRM system? So if I talk to a customer on Twitter the second time, I know who they are again, that I have access to their information, that I can say, I see you had this problem before, or I see this as a new problem, right? And it really drew the connection to me that, the opportunity for them is to have another vehicle, perhaps a more powerful vehicle, because the power of the community to intervene and help drive brand value, right? But ultimately, they needed to connect it to their applications, which have been designed and optimized to solve these problems for their customers. So I think it's providing that platform and connecting it to those transactional applications, those enterprise applications. And then the last area is this idea that I think social and content need to be a fabric in how we build our applications. And I saw G2 Patel from EMC gave a talk last night where he talked about this. I thought it was a really good talk at the Exec Summit about how we use these technologies within our applications. So part of our strategy is to provide these technologies in the development frameworks that you use to build applications. So the objective is, if you're designing an application, we as a content management industry need to make the ability to not just manage but also get value from content something that somebody just brings in when they're developing that application. Because all of you who are ECM practitioners have probably gone through the process where you're going through your organization and you're essentially applying ECM to a lot of existing applications where people said, oh, I'll just jam the files into the local file system and we'll solve this problem some other day, right? Because they were trying to build this application. They weren't trying to solve a content management problem. So we need to make these concepts, these capabilities, so easy for them to integrate into their applications when they're building them that that's a better alternative than simply saying, oh, I'll just put this as a lob in the database, or I'll just put this on the file system, right? So part of our strategy is to have this pervasive development model around how you make this part of the applications that people are building.